Hey, what's up, everyone? You don't know what just happened, so that's cool. What I know is that it's the All49ers Roundtable, joined by Maverick Pallack, Jose Sanchez, Suneil Gaitonde, and Ben Meyerson. Today, we're going to do a buy or sell show. I'm going to say something, a claim, a fact, a prediction, and you guys will go around and say whether you buy or sell. It's a kind of a new concept that no one's ever done in a roundtable setting, but I'm going to try it out, see how it goes. Like the first one, for example, buy or sell the claim that injuries are the only reason the Niners are moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo. Sean McVay most recently asserted this claim just in his podcast with Kyle Shanahan. Availability, the only reason Niners moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo. Maverick, please, would you do the honors?
He doesn't want
to. I can't hear him.
Yeah, you're muted. You're muted. All right, hold on. Ben.
Me now?
Yeah, I hear you now. There you go. There you go. Nope. Now you just got to press the mute button. You just got to press the button. There you go.
I'll figure it out eventually. It's not like this is my first time or anything. I'd say injuries are definitely a contributing factor because when he was healthy, they did go to the Super Bowl. So if he were never injured, I think there would be a reason why he would still be on this team. But he got injured, and that also allowed the 49ers to be in position to move up and get Trey Lance. So injuries definitely are a heavy factor in why Garoppolo probably won't be the quarterback in 2022.
The main deal breaker.
I'm selling that. I'm selling that to the highest bidder easily. I'm throwing that in the garbage. That's just they literally entertained almost so many quarterback rumors from the moment their offseason began and the first week of January. From Stafford, Teddy Bridgewater, there was even Sam Darnold. They actually were in Sam. All these quarterbacks. So it can't just be 100% strictly availability. Now, is that the majority? Sure. But I think Kyle Shanahan is a little tired of having to handhold Jimmy Garoppolo in his offense because so many times, even in the pressers, and he mentioned it in the podcast with McVay, he's like, you got to learn how quarterback needs to learn how to play from the pocket. And if you could do the off-script plays, that's always a bonus, but playing from the pocket. And that's something that Garoppolo can't really do on his own without having Shanahan's like tight gripped hands on him just to open everything up. So I think like it's always availability. So I think the thing is like, God, Jimmy's not like the greatest quarterback, but the fact this guy can't stay available and giving out how much we paying him, this is just way too much right now. So I'm selling that 100%.
Yeah, I'm selling as well. I got really confused by Jose's answer because he started off saying sell, but then he said majority is injuries, which is the question. So I'm a little bit confused. I don't think it really has that much to do with injuries at all. I think this all has to do with Kyle Shanahan wanting to be able to open his offense a lot more than he can with Jimmy. And the reason why I'm saying that is even in after the Super Bowl year in 2020, when Tom Brady was available, he was still they were still flirting with bringing in Tom Brady, even though Jimmy G just came off of a healthy year going into the Super Bowl. So for me, I think it doesn't have to do as much with the injuries, even though that's going to be the scapegoat for Kyle Shanahan to move off of Jimmy G. I really think this is because he can't throw the ball down the field the way that Kyle Shanahan would like. He can't do those off-scripted plays like Shanahan would like. And remember, Shanahan talked about what would his perfect quarterback be? Somebody that throws like Drew Brees and can run like Lamar Jackson. Obviously, that's a pipe dream, but in the presence of who they were going after largely this offseason and Deshaun Watson and now picking up Trey Lance, it's more what he's looking for than what Jimmy G was giving him, healthy or not healthy.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Jose and Suneil were saying, and I'm going to sell for this reason specifically, that if it was only about the injuries with Jimmy Garoppolo and it wasn't about the play at all and how he limits the playbook, Mac Jones, in my opinion, would be a 49er right now because the 49ers could have stuck at 12, taken the Jimmy Garoppolo 2.0 player and just stuck him in and got the healthy version of Jimmy. The 49ers didn't do that. They traded all the draft capital in the world and took the biggest risk that Kyle Shanahan's ever taken in his career to go up and get Trey Lance. So I don't buy that for 1 second.
Yeah. I guess I think it's kind of a trick question because the 49ers aren't necessarily united on this front. There's Kyle and there's the front office and John Lynch. So from the front office and John Lynch's perspective, I think they really like Jimmy Garoppolo and probably see it from Maverick's perspective. Like, we like him, we win with him, we're invested in him, but the injuries are we have to concede that point. Whereas Kyle, I feel like, has been making like a 30-slide PowerPoint presentation explaining why Jimmy Garoppolo isn't that good for years. Like I always felt that he's been as down or more down on Jimmy than I am. So I think what we're seeing is for Kyle, there's a million reasons. For the front office, that is the one that they have to acknowledge. I don't know if they acknowledge the other ones, but ultimately this is Kyle's team. So I think we're seeing that. Yeah, it's all the reasons you guys pointed out.
I don't think that's Ben Meyerson. I think that's Clark Kent right there. That's for sure Clark Kent, dude.
Looking
Come on. Come on, you ain't fooling me, Superman.
All right, next buy or sell. 3 rookies will start this season. Ben, you start the bidding.
So I was going to go run into the telephone booth real quick, but I'll just wait after the show. But I'm buying this right now because, and I wrote about this last week, Grant. I'm sure you picked up on this in my article. There's been 13 rookies taken in the top 3 since the new rookie wage scale. All of those 13 rookies have started at least 1 point in their rookie season. None of them have played like less than 8 games in general. So I think Aaron Banks is going to be starting. I think Trey Sermon's going to be starting. And I think Trey Lance is going to be starting. So I totally buy this as a possibility. I think the only part of this where I would have any issue is if the 49ers really want to stick with Jimmy Garoppolo. But like we've been seeing with Kyle Shanahan recently, like we've been discussing all summer, doesn't seem like Kyle's really Jimmy's guy. So I've gotten to the point where, yeah, I'm going to buy this. I think 3 rookies will start this season.
Yeah, and I'm with Clark as well. I'm buying this wholeheartedly. I think the 3 that he just named, Trey Lance, Banks, and Trey Sermon are not only going to be starters in the offense for the 49ers, but I think they're going to play some of the biggest roles and make the biggest impact as far as with the 49ers. And I think looking back at this draft, this is going to be one of the best drafts that the 49ers have had under the Kyle Shanahan era. And the reason why I think Ambry Thomas is going to be I think they're going to probably get at least 5 to 7 starter / rotational players out of this draft that's going to actually make the team long term and be productive players for the 49ers, specifically out of this 2021 draft. So I'm buying this. I think that the 3 that Clark mentioned, as well as maybe even Ambry Thomas jumping in. So I could see them even having 4 starters by the later half of this year due to injuries and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm buying this faster than people bought Dogecoin. This is like a big lock. I'll even go as far as say 4 rookies will start this season. Maybe not at the beginning, but for sure at some point. And like those 2 already said, Trey Lance, Sermon. I probably figure Sermon once Mostert gets injured, because the running back group has always been like a nice little revolving door. So that one kind of seems evident. Banks for sure week 1. They had to have an anchor there, someone bulky there, at least some. Maybe just have that nice little boulder there just to hang on with McGlinchey on that side. And then I'm going to say Ambry Thomas, because Jason Verrett, as great as he was last season, we got to consider that as an outlier season with his health right now. Just because, and he even started the season injured to begin with last year too. And even Emmanuel Mosey as well, he's not that great of a healthy player. He has some little skids here and there. So those 2 can be some players that can kick in Ambry Thomas into that position. But those are like the 4 I would say. So I think I'm buying this all the way to the moon for sure.
The only one I think that is definitely to start with no injuries at his position is Aaron Banks. I think Jimmy Garoppolo, at least in my opinion, I think he's going to start week 1.
Sure.
And then I don't think Trey Sermon will start because Kyle doesn't like starting the rookie running back. It will be whatever veteran is healthy at the time until Mostert and Wayne Gallman go down. Then maybe Sermon will get the official start. And then I think Ambry Thomas and Diamador Lenore can only get in if there's injuries. Same with Jalen Moore at right tackle if McGlinchey gets hurt. And then Hufanga, I think, is going to be mostly special teams this first year.
Yeah, I'm selling this too with Maverick. I think Trey Sermon will get a lot of carries, more than 100, but will he start? Probably not. I was just looking real quick. Frank Gore got 120 plus carries as a rookie, 1 start. So maybe Sermon will start a game, but week 1, I do think Lance will start week 1, and I think Banks will start week 1, but I don't think a 3rd one will. But the thing is, by the end of the season, I mean, if Jaquiski Tartt gets hurt, then Hufanga could be in there. If Jason Verrett gets hurt, which he does, then Diamador or Ambry Thomas could be in there. So by the end of the season, it could be 5 or it could be all of them. But I think week 1, I'm selling and saying 2, just to get some disagreement going on. All right, next one. Buy or sell, the 49ers will finish above 500 this season. Oh, who's feeling bold today? Maverick.
Remember, there's no 500 anymore.
Yeah, I'm not feeling bold. Just looking at their schedule, I think they should be above 500 just because if you just take out the whole division, I think people think this is the hardest division in the NFL. If you just eliminate divisional games and eliminate the Green Bay game because we don't know who their quarterback is going to be, there's 8 wins on the schedule, in my opinion, of Philadelphia, Chicago, Jacksonville, Minnesota, Cincinnati, and Atlanta, and Detroit and Houston. That should be 8 right there. They have a pretty easy non-conference schedule. So 8, and then if they just split the division, that's above 9.
It's true. That's math.
I can't sell this as much as I want to disagree. Just like Grant said, it's hard. Like Mav already said it, but I mean, the only way you can do it is if they had the same debacle and injuries last season. Even that was like, oh my god, can anyone recall a time that actually happened? Didn't they at one point like broke the scale of like injured salary cap
yes.
at some point in the season? So that was wild. That's really the only, and even then they were still a pretty solid team, at least defensively. In the offense, all they needed was a capable quarterback. So
almost beat Seattle last week.
Exactly, yeah. And it took all of that just to keep them down, and still they finished 13th, or they were 12th, 13th, whatever, in the draft. So that's pretty wild just to think about. So I there's no way I can really ponder it. I'm buying that 1,000%, at least 8-7 for sure. I'm going as far as say 10-7 or 11-6. That still sounds so weird to say, but yeah,
it does.
It does. I'm like 11-7.
Carry the one. Yeah.
But yeah, 1,000% I'm buying this.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm buying this as well. I think the 49ers are going to sleepwalk into a double-digit winning season this year. Just because last year they were super competitive with decimated by injuries. Obviously, their record didn't show it, but they were in pretty much every game, plus or minus 1 or 2 games where they were like blown out. I think they've gotten better at most positions this year and gotten healthier at a lot of positions. And I think they still have a lot of depth on the team. So I don't think I think they're going to still stay as competitive with better talent, which means that, they're going to be able to just, get over the hump in those games where they were close but didn't have enough talent to actually get those wins. Not to mention they're playing a 4th place schedule, which means they have an easier schedule than they were dealing with last season, which was a 1st place schedule. So I imagine all of those things are going to lead to a double-digit winning season this year.
Whew. Wow, this is tempting, isn't it? I don't want the Wolves coming after me. I'm not stupid. I'm going to buy this under the stipulation that even if the 49ers do get completely injured like they did last season, like everyone's been explaining, they're going from a 1st place NFC championship schedule to a 4th place schedule. That's going to help the 49ers a lot, in my opinion. And I think that at minimum wins them 9 games like Maverick went over. But I will say, I think there's a chance they go below 500 if Jimmy Garoppolo is the starter for the entire season. That's the only way I think the 49ers would ever go below 500. And even then, I don't really think I'm buying that. So as much as I want to be a contrarian here and get people pissed at me in the comments and on Twitter, I'm not stupid. They're going to win at least 9 games this season.
Okay, I'll do it. Look, I predicted the Niners will win 11 games this year. So that's my prediction. But let me be a salesman for a second. My brother's a salesman. Let me sell this. All right. My best attempt to sell the Niners below 500. We're talking about a team that's only had 4 winning seasons since 2003. So just to assume that things are going to go their way is a little rich. And really what happens to the 49ers, especially recently, is they beat themselves. They beat themselves by getting injured. It's not like they've had these nemesis that they just can't compete with. They can kind of compete with anybody when they're healthy, but they limp into the season. They are decimated by the time the season's over. Even when they went to the Super Bowl, they were one of the most injured teams in the league. I just feel like it's not that far-fetched to think that an injury-prone team is going to get injured again. And that it's not that, Mav went through the schedule and pointed out how it's weak. Yeah, but the Niners' toughest opponent every year is themselves. It's themselves. And they're so tough on themselves. I mean, they beat themselves up in camp in spring. So that's me selling a below 500 record, but I think there's way too much talent in this organization. They're in year 5 of a promising regime. I'd hate to think that they're going to go 8-9 this year, but it's certainly on the table. Let's not take that for granted.
Yeah, it's almost like you got to buy it because you have to. Otherwise, you're going to light them up criticism wise.
Yeah,
8-1 is still possible. They can still get 500.
Oh God,
Maverick, that's right. That is true. All right, last buy or sell. The 49ers will trade for N'Keal Harry. This is a guy who's probably take a conditional pick, like a conditional, maybe switch spots in the 7th, maybe a ham sandwich would get it done. Do you think the Niners will bring him on the team? Who's starting here? I forget.
I think it's on Ben.
Clark Kent.
Is it on me? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was on Maverick. No. I talked about this yesterday. I'm fully in on buying this, and I'll tell you why. I think specifically for
It does.
This is the Brady Bunch setup.
Specifically for the specifically for the 49ers, if you look at them versus other teams trying to acquire N'Keal Harry, the 49ers would have to trade a 6th or 7th conditional pick to actually acquire him, because any other team could just pick him up off waivers if the Patriots decide to cut him. So will the 49ers trade for N'Keal Harry? I think so, because that's the only way I can actually see them getting N'Keal Harry. And what I think is interesting about him specifically is he adds a dynamic to this offense they just don't have right now, that 50-50 type of receiver, big-bodied, red zone sort of guy. And I would be really willing to take a flyer on the guy that the 49ers were really high on in the first place, especially considering all we've been hearing recently about how, they would have taken him over Deebo Samuel. So the 49ers are really high on this guy, and it's only going to take a swap of 6-round picks like Grant is talking about. Why not?
Yeah, I mean,
yes, Suneil, why not?
Is that foreshadowing? But I mean, the fun thing about if they did trade for N'Keal Harry is it would give them the highest drafted receiver core that they've ever had, right? It would be 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick, right?
Don't forget Kevin White.
And Kevin White.
Kevin White.
But with all that being said, I'm selling this. And the reason why I'm selling this is because the 49ers have had every opportunity this offseason to get another receiver if they wanted another receiver. They had free agency. They could have signed people. They had the draft. And then they had, they've had up until this time as well. And they haven't made a move at receiver, which hints to me that they're going to go with the receiver core that they have right now. Maybe if there's an injury during during training camp, maybe they go after somebody, but they haven't really shown a need or feeling like they need to make a move at receiver. And once again, there's too much noise around this. And if there's noise around the 49ers going after a player, that to me is 100% that's not going to happen, just because the media is always wrong when it comes to who the 49ers are going to go after. So for me, I'm selling
You're the media, Suneil.
I'm a opinion guy.
Okay.
I'm not big J journalism like you, Grant.
Okay.
So
okay.
So no, you are big J journalism. I'm saying that.
No, and you say I'm always wrong. It's I can
my opinion is you are always wrong. Because my opinions are facts, that makes you wrong. But I'm selling this. I just think that the 49ers feel like they have something with the depth of their receiver. They're getting, some guys back that opted out last season that they obviously made moves to get last offseason. So I feel like they're going to stick with who they have.
I don't know how I follow that up after you just dunked on Grant. First of all, if it's a trade for a ham sandwich, that's a little too high. It might be a bologna sandwich. That's cheap for meat, so probably a bologna sandwich. I'm selling this. N'Keal Harry, man, it looks like he's running routes on the beach. That's how like I just, even when he was coming out, I really didn't like how he ran routes. I feel like if you're gonna take a wide receiver in the first round, which that's his first round draft status, is he has to have nice route running so you don't have too much to work on, and he definitely cannot have hand issues. And sure enough, that's 2 of it. He may be a physical freak, which is good. That's the top one you want, but he fails the other 2 parts that you really need or to warrant a first round draft status. So I mean, maybe the Patriots overreached, but they also needed it. The 49ers don't need a receiver. I feel like this wide receiver thing is way overblown ever since KB left. I mean, I think they'll miss KB specifically, but it's not like they can't figure it out through committee or something like that. And I also don't think the 49ers will want to invest more draft cap. Not saying it's going to take much to get N'Keal Harry in the first place, because it's not like they have a 6th-round pick this year, but maybe they could package some deal. But I just don't think they could probably justify it themselves, knowing that, Jalen Hurd was a 67th overall pick. Not saying I'm personally holding out hope for him, but that's something they have to, because they did spend. That's kind of pretty hefty draft capital right there for a wide receiver. You're 67th overall, and the guy hasn't produced anything. At some point, he needs to do something. They need to focus more on him, and then they got other veterans to worry about. So, I mean, it'd be a nice, flyer. Maybe a change of scenery might be it. But I mean, what's a change of scenery going to do to his route running? It's what is the West Coast air better than the East Coast air? It's going to make him run lighter or something like that. Oh yeah, that's all of a sudden going to work.
The grass out here is so good.
It's going to make him worse then.
Well, he'll be playing home games in Phoenix again, right?
There you go. That's what he needs.
Yeah, that's it. So I'm selling this easily.
Well, I'm selling too, just because what his agent said as a quote, he was upset about 86 targets in 2 years.
Yeah.
Where's he going to find 86 targets in this offense where he's probably he would be the 5th or 6th option. He'd be behind Debo. He'd be behind Ayuk. He'd be behind Kittle and whatever running back, because Shanahan likes using running backs in the passing game. So I don't see why he would want to come here. I think a team that has much less wide receiver weapons would be who would go after him.
Okay, so he might want to go someplace and start, but so do I. I'd love to be a starting wide receiver for an NFL team. I don't think any team is like, man, how am I going to get N'Keal Harry on my team in my starting lineup? If only we had N'Keal Harry in our starting lineup, we'd be, nah. So he can want whatever he wants, but when he comes back to earth and deals with the reality of his situation, he might find the Niners are actually a pretty good spot for him. Yeah, he would have to beat out Juwan Jennings and Jalen Hurd, but let's say this drags out and the Niners, I don't think they would make the move now. They're like keeping hope alive for Jalen Hurd, but let's say he gets hurt again after a week of camp and Juwan Jennings looks mediocre. The Niners might want to do it. I could see it happening. It's not going to happen now, but if Hurd can't come back, gets hurt, isn't the same, then all bets are off. And really, they just got Juwan Jennings and Mohamed Sanu, and both of them could be nothing. So I'm not going to write it off, but it doesn't feel like it's going to happen anytime soon.
Well,
again, who's clamoring for N'Keal Harry? He'll be around.
No. Well,
the Patriots could just ignore him. Sorry.
No.
Who are you? Nah, I never heard of you. Sorry.
I was just going to say, for a guy who doesn't get a lot of separation, I don't think it's a bad place to end up in. And I think the one thing with N'Keal Harry here's the pitch I will make on him. There's a lot of pressure on him to perform in New England. I don't think there would be that same kind of pressure in San Francisco.
Good point.
I feel like if you're leaving New England, then that's something that's going to be a red flag too. But let's say he gets traded. That's going to be the greatest separation N'Keal Harry's ever had in his NFL career from New England. That's going to be his greatest separation. That
was good. I like that. That was really good. Okay, that's the end of the buy or sell game. We have 2 more topics, and they're very positive. So let's just get right into them. Why is Kyle Shanahan constantly in the news cycle this offseason? Normally, I'm like the kind of guy who would be saying, this is bad, but it's the deadest of the dead periods there's ever been. And every time he does something or throws a ball or breaks a rule, I'm like, yes, thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Kyle. What is this?
It's fun. It's nice seeing a different, nice seeing a different personality from him. He's taken the Sean McVay approach, and that's worked for Sean McVay for a couple years. So
what's the Sean McVay approach?
Being personable and likable, and Kyle Shanahan's been doing that a lot this offseason, and it's been I like it.
Yeah, I feel you. Okay.
You know why he's constantly in the news cycle? Because this guy is so happy he has a new quarterback. That's why he's so happy. He's happy. He's like, that's a good point. Grant, how happy were you when you got your new car? You were juiced,
so
right?
Happy.
That's
happy.
Kyle Shanahan, bro. So
fair
that's
enough.
how when I got my car,
fair.
I'm like, oh, let's go.
Yeah.
So it's like, you get a new job, working sports, whatever, new laptop, new toy. That's why he's in the news cycle. He's like, hey, I'm in a good mood. So you guys catch me. You catch me in a good mood. Because when you're in a good mood, you're going to be more willing to open up. And that's something they mentioned on his podcast with McVay and Schrager. They kept saying he was so vulnerable. I was like, yeah, he's just chopping up. He's like, yeah, I'm set now, bro. Like, what's good? You got Stafford? Cool. I wanted him, but I got my guy. Yeah. So that's why he's so happy. The more open, the more happy you are, the more willing you are to talk. Because notice like how even 2019, you can notice 2019 pressers, Kyle talked more. And last year he didn't talk as much, in the pressers, in terms of transparency, at least. That's how I felt. That's how I felt the 2 difference in the last 2 years since I've been covering this team. But yeah, that's definitely, he's happy he's got a new toy to play with in his quarterback.
It's a good theory. I hadn't considered that at all. What do you think, Suneil?
I think, I think that plays a role. The only reason why I don't think it's only that is because he's never talking about the quarterbacks, right? So if when Grant got his car, the first thing he did when he got on camera was like, I just got a Kia Stinger. You know what I mean? So like, if it was all about Trey Lance being a part of the team, I think we would be hearing more about Trey Lance. The real reason why I think he is out in the open a lot more is I think something happened this offseason when they sat down with York and Lynch about making the trade. And I think there was some talks about just comfortability. I think Kyle Shanahan feels safe in his position.
Yes.
For the owner to be able to give him permission to make such a bold move. And then you saw all of this with him they're posting pictures of, him at dinner at Jed York's house. We saw how Jed York was tweeting during the draft and all this kind of stuff. I think that the 49ers know this is going to be the coaching staff and the front office for a while. And because of that comfort level, we're getting to see Kyle Shanahan be able to go out there without any fear that any of this is going to blow back and create drama for him in his position as coach. And so that's, for me, why I think we're seeing it so much. This looks like a guy in Kyle Shanahan that isn't afraid of losing his job, doesn't feel like he's on the hot seat in any certain way. And we're seeing him be able to, how many coaches have you seen with a former
the pizza
player
oven on the first try? I've never seen it.
Not only that, but just drinking and all this kind of stuff. True. You don't see coaches do that, right?
No.
You don't see coaches,
especially ones with a losing record. I'm just mentioning.
Sure, but I'm saying that to me even more shows just the confidence and the comfort level, because he's not getting all this blowback other than from Big J journalism up top about him, being able to do this, even though the team hasn't performed necessarily at the highest rate as other teams. So to me, it's more about comfort level. I think Jed York likes Shanahan, and I think he's looking at Shanahan being the coach for a long time, and I think Kyle knows that and is taking advantage now.
He only has a losing record because he's not the starting quarterback, Grant.
Yeah, and maybe now that he hit that pizza oven, things could change. Three-way competition. I heard, according to sources, three-way competition. Ben, why is he always in the news cycle?
Just going back to the car analogy really quick, I think part of the reason he's probably not bragging about his Kia Stingers because he's got 2 cars in the garage right now. I mean, you can't brag about one car when you have the other one sitting right there. So
true.
I think that's kind of part of the problem with that. And why
he's never really even allowed to drive the Stinger yet. It's like, I have it. Let me put it on my Instagram. But no, I can't pick you up just yet. My mom said it's not ready.
Yeah, you can get those dope IG pics, but you can't quite get on the highway yet and just put it in the throttle. Not yet.
This driveway.
Yet, right?
Yeah.
But I think part of the reason Kyle's been in the news cycle so much this offseason in particular is because I think there's never been higher expectations for Kyle Shanahan going into his season. If you look at the 49ers, sure, in 2020, there were a lot of expectations. There was the whole Revenge Tour 2.0 thing. Right, or Revenge 1.0, it's 2.0 now. But the thing, even with that, is that the fans and the organization gave Kyle a pass because the team was so hurt. I mean, constantly you'll hear it from this fan base. They have a reason why last season went the way it did. But if the 49ers were to actually lose this season, 49ers fans would be running out of options quick in terms of what they could blame in terms of not blaming Kyle Shanahan. So I think the reason Kyle's gotten out there and has said so much is because, for one, I mean, they went and actually drafted his quote-unquote guy at quarterback, right? I just don't think there's ever been higher expectations short-term and long-term for Kyle Shanahan with his time at the 49ers.
Great answers, guys. I'm leaning a little towards Suneil on this one. I feel like he's acting like a man who won 2 Super Bowls, or at least one. And that is what Suneil's pointing to. Like, he's got ultimate job security right now. Break a rule? Who cares? Should I stay? Should I take this video of me a little maybe tipsy, throwing across the street with Joe Staley and then me cursing afterward? Yeah, do it. Who cares? Should I go on this podcast and talk very candidly for an hour and kind of undermines some narratives that our owner and general manager have put out there. Sure, who cares? To me, he's in a very good spot, and I'm with Suneil. I think he's probably figured out that this new quarterback gives him like a 3-year extension. He has the extension. He's now has like a 3-year window. He's cool. They're committed to him and Trey Lance together for the next 3 years. But if they lose this season, someone's head has to roll, metaphorically, and it ain't going to be him. I think it's probably going to be John Lynch. So from Kyle's perspective, he could either win this year and that's good, or if he loses this year, then they could get rid of John Lynch and maybe Kyle would get more power. That could be good too. He's acting like a man who's in a win-win situation, and he just might be. So something to keep in mind. He's acting like one way or another, I'm going to be in a great spot in 2022.
And I think if we think about what he's actually saying, right, it's like you said, all narrative, like changing types of things. So he came out a lot, after, they drafted Trey over Mac, and basically was like, why did the media think that I wouldn't go after somebody like this, right? Because they only think I would go after Mac, and he kind of stuck it to the media in that way. And then when he goes on the McVay with the podcast with McVay, he was really talking about that fourth quarter with Atlanta that people are just beating him up for, as far as him not being able to take that team over the hump in the fourth quarter. And he kind of was explaining his thought process to try to just like change that narrative. And it looks like somebody who always had that chip on his shoulder didn't really feel like he could say it because of how the press would affect him or how it might reflect upon the team. But now he doesn't have any of that fear, and he's going out here and just like going after everybody that's ever said anything about him.
Yep, I'm with it. It's very interesting. Also, he's kind of alienated some Big J journalists nationally with his little stuff he did. And so what did he do? He went on with Sean McVay. It's like, I don't need no Big J journalists. I'm with you, Kyle. Screw him. And come on my show next, because I've always been very fair to you. And I've always seen things from your perspective. So let's top it up.
I thought he's on with you tomorrow.
No, player tomorrow. Kyle will be next week.
I thought he's starting quarterback. I thought he's a player coach.
Good point. All right, final topic of the day.
It's Dwelly tomorrow.
Another positive one. The worst contract on the 49ers. And why is it George Kittle?
It's not George Kittle, Grant.
It's definitely not George Kittle.
So I guess he's not on tomorrow. My guess is
it is not George Kittle. And if you thought you were going to get a George Kittle interview at any point, that is blown out the window. No, I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, I kind of put this question out there, and I thought there would be a lot of different answers, but I think it's pretty clear it's Eric Armstead. If you look at his salary cap number this season, it's going to be $20 million. And if you look the next 2 seasons, it goes up further. It's 21 next year and 23 the year after. And yes, the 49ers do have an out in his contract, but even with that out in his contract, they would have to take on an $11.5 million dead cap hit in the first year.
That's not good. That's
a
not good.
$6.5 million dead cap hit in the year after. So really, to me, the only way that this contract gets any better is if they decide to extend him when they have that out in his contract. And that doesn't even really make things better at all. So I feel like they're in a situation where they're kind of stuck with this contract. Whereas you look at some of the other contracts on the 49ers, like Trent Williams, which I know Grant loves to hate on, right? That's an easier contract to get out of than the Eric Armstead contract. And he's a much better player than Eric Armstead is right now. And I think with Eric Armstead's role and how much money they're paying him, it just doesn't make sense long term. And I think he's the one contract that, to me, is holding this team back from winning a Super Bowl, if anything.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with Ben just because at least Armstead could still play. The contract that I think is the worst is going to be Dee Ford, right? Because you're paying for a player that isn't
so
even
easy
playing. Right. So at least Armstead has the opportunity to be productive for the team. We don't even know if Dee Ford is going to be able
ever play again.
Right. So paying a player that could actually play is much better than paying for a player that isn't playing. Right. So that's why I'm going to go with Dee Ford as far as being the worst contract, just because that's just money that we could be using towards somebody else. Unless he comes back, then I'll be wrong. But
but if he doesn't, he could pocket like $45 million for what, like 250 snaps?
They can't get out of that.
Not his fault. Definitely not his fault. The Niners knew what they were getting into. But that's a good call.
Worst case scenario played out. Worst case scenario played out.
These are 2 bad contracts we've just named.
Right.
The Eric Armstead one is bad too and they haven't really begun to feel the badness.
No.
Feel the badness. Jose.
This year it gets bad.
See, I want to do the cop out and say Jimmy Garoppolo just because I guess I'm a Jimmy G hater and it's kind of funny, but honestly I still can't have it in me to say. Maybe if we asked this question last year, I would have said that, but they could easily cut him and then they're all good. I think I'm gonna be a little bit of half Grant right now and say Trent Williams because I started thinking, maybe last year his performance was more because he'd had that bye season. He had that bye season and he was fresh because just watching training camp, it was like this guy is just straight owning Nick Bosa. He's owning D4. He's owning everyone. That guy was like pretty much a brick wall. You couldn't move him. What if now all of a sudden this season, now we see him, he starts to degrade. He starts to go declining. That's not a steep decline. Maybe it's all of a sudden we start seeing a roller coaster. We start seeing some McGlinchey out of him because his age and because now his body's like more, it's not as fresh as it was before. So, I think that could be a worse contract for sure. And it's a gamble because the 49ers kind of had to give him that contract, in my opinion, because you don't want to be 2 years in a row of just figuring out, oh, God, now we have out. So their hands were kind of forced, especially when you have Trey Lance coming in. You need Garoppolo to protection because one tackle and he's done. But I can definitely see it where it's like, oh, God, this guy, maybe he's not nowhere near where he was in 2020. And even if he's half of what he is already, that contract looks bad. And like Ben said, you can get out of it kind of like down the line, but it's not like you can get out in a year or two, but still it'd be something like, that kind of hurts a little bit, especially since like McGlinchey's not necessarily your anchor right tackle. So that's something that could probably be, if he doesn't live up to it, even like more than halfway.
I think Armstead is going to have a better year this year just because, maybe not 2019 level, but just having Nick Bosa hopefully back to close to full strength and Samson Ebicom on the other edge, just getting Armstead back inside. Maybe he won't reach his salary potential, but I think he'll be better. My pick is Robbie Gould. Because looking what Tristan Vizcaino did in that one game he kicked for the 49ers, it shows that if you find the right cheap kicker, you can do a lot of damage with that. And Robbie Gould's pretty good when he's healthy, but he's been hurt the last couple of years and has missed a lot of kicks because he's hurt. And
he's expensive.
Yeah, and very expensive. I think it's $4 million a year-ish around that, and that's a lot to be paying a kicker for 13 or less games a year.
Kickers are people too, Maverick.
That's why I picked him. I included him.
He doesn't really have range past 45 degrees. He hasn't come on my show yet or agreed to interview. So Robbie Gould.
And hey, Maverick, his dead cap hit this year is $8 million.
Yeah,
that's
who? Robbie?
What?
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah,
because they just upped him
this year.
I think they extended him.
The other thing about Trent Williams, that is not a Parag deal. Remember, the Niners, Parag basically put his foot down and was like, "All right, go to Kansas City, good luck." And Kyle had to call him up and was like, "Nah, we don't do business like that around here anymore, Parag. Sorry, we're keeping Trent." So that was a Kyle move. I'm gonna go with the guy that you guys haven't said, just to keep it fresh, Jimmy Garoppolo. And I know that it's structured well, that they can get out of it. They haven't got out of it yet. And for whatever reason, they're like stuck in this limbo of Jimmy Garoppolo. And as long as they have his $27 million cap number on their books, that's the albatross that's holding them back more than Armstead, more than D Ford, more than anyone. And I know they can get rid of it in a way that the Rams couldn't get rid of Goff's, but they haven't done it yet. And it could go on forever. I don't know.
I was actually going to say, I think he's the best contract because they can get rid of him right now.
No, absolutely. But they're like addicted to it, man. I have a bonus question I want to give you before we go. Do you think Jimmy Garoppolo privately will request a trade soon or already has? Privately. I don't think he would do it publicly. He's not that kind of guy.
No, I think they've already told him he's getting traded.
Okay.
Because if you, like I said, once they drafted Trey, we came on this show and we said you will never hear another bad word about Jimmy G from anybody on the 49ers. And that's been what it is. I think they know that he's the future. You don't trade that much draft capital keeping another guy that you're paying like a franchise quarterback on the staff. And I think they're just waiting for one of these big quarterbacks to go down so they could at least get some kind of draft capital for him versus just cutting him. And but I think, one of these quarterbacks will probably get injured during the training camp, and then Jimmy G is going to be hot, and they could go and trade him.
Mav, you shook your head.
Well, I just think that I think Jimmy Garoppolo thinks he's going to win the starting job. So I don't think he's. Maybe it's not a realistic expectation, but I think he's going to think that. Also, guy in the comments saying that I called Tristan Vizcaino good, and he meant Chase McLaughlin when he said Chase McLaughlin shanked the field goal.
Sure.
Tristan Vizcaino was 3 for 3. Just so you know, two different.
In your face.
Yeah.
that.
learn your kickers.
Yeah. I have a feeling that Jimmy's going to request a trade at some point. And not because he doesn't think he's going to win. I think he thinks he's going to win. But I also think he thinks that the organization is out to get him, that they throw him under the bus. They don't give him a fair shot. They blame him for everything, that their mind is made up and there's nothing he can do. And that's probably true too. So at a certain point, if he feels like it's trending towards Trey Lance, he could be like, can you stop wasting my time? Can you please let me go? Please let me go. I've been a good guy. I've never said anything publicly. Like, do me solid the way that they did Navarro Bowman a solid, right? Yeah, I'm just saying.
I think that's what they're gonna do.
Yeah. I think the only reason he wouldn't request a trade right now is because he probably thinks he would have to restructure his contract once he does get traded. I would say that's probably the only reason that would hold Jimmy back right now from trying to get traded from them.
If I were Jimmy, I'd be less concerned about money and more concerned about happiness and good fit, because he's got 90 mil. He needs to go somewhere with a coach who likes him and believes in him, because he knows what it's like to play for a coach who can't stand him.
And I think the 49ers have already told him since like February, March that, hey, we might be looking to trade you. I think they've been told them that. And that actually kind of your question actually kind of inspired like my article last week. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo's not going to be able to maximize his value this year, which this is all should be about him. He knows his future's not with the 49ers. And as much as he isn't a great offense and a great coach, he's probably going to get, supplanted by Trey Lance at some point, or maybe an injury or whatnot. So maybe your trade is better for him. So that way he has more firmer ground and he can make a case for a season.
Yeah. Well, they have some bad contracts, but they actually do have a very good roster. Parag Marath actually does a very good job. The rest of the salaries are pretty decent. They can get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo, and they can win the Super Bowl, and you guys will all be happily and live happily ever after. So hopefully,
is George Kittle a bad contract?
I mean, he didn't earn it last year, did he? Did he?
Oh.
Hey, can I give you a question to ask Jimmy Ward tomorrow?
Yeah. What?
He said, yeah. What? He said, yeah.
Too smart for me, Suneil. Too smart for me. The psychology. All right. On that note, that's the end of the show. Thank you very much. Please keep the secret. All right, guys.